Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earl Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earl Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earl Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
Plus, Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. Also by Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series, and the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel, with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earl Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome in to Lansky's Clothier to the King in the Peabody Hotel. And my first guest today is also one of my major sponsor, Don Graeter, the CEO of Southern Security. But also, like all my sponsors, and that's probably once you get to know them, is they're part of what make Memphis great. She was born in Millington and has been in banking almost by the time you got to college. That was your job through college. And welcome to the show, your show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. This is exciting. I love this new setup. What a great place.
Isn't it incredible? I had somebody ask me and said, that's a great idea. Who thought that up? And I went, I know this is going to be surprising to you, but I did.
Every once in a while you have a great idea. Is that the way that works?
Yeah, all you need is a couple, as long as they're
right.
really good. But when I came to you and I said, look, we're thinking about moving the show from radio to Lansky's and the Peabody and just talk about good news and the good things that happen in Memphis and the good people that are here. And you said, I'm in immediately.
That's exactly right. We want to talk about all the good things. I think too many of the bad things get out. So I think Memphis is a great, great place. And there's lots of good, and we want to tell those stories. I don't think we do a good job of telling those stories enough. So this is a great opportunity.
And unfortunately, so much of the media nationally and local tend to lean toward the bad things that are going on in the world. And I think people are really tired of it. I mean, everybody I talk to and tell them what we're doing, they go, no bad news? I said, nah, we're not going to do any bad news.
That's right. No negativity.
Everybody else. Let's talk about you, though, because you have been a very accomplished person in your professional life. And starting with, you've always worked. I mean, did you work in high school as well?
I did. I started working when I was in the 9th grade. Worked for a little print shop in Millington. And back in the day, you could walk from school to where you were working and didn't have to worry about your safety. And so I did after school. Walked to a print shop a couple blocks away from the high school. And I worked every afternoon until 5 o'clock.
In fact, everybody worked. My sister had a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I was just a kid, and we'd go pick her up, and she smelled like the original recipe. You got a chicken leg in there.
Yeah.
But I think that is one of the things that everybody worked in those days.
That's right.
And if you didn't have a job, everybody go, "What's wrong? How come you don't have a job?" And because people just didn't have money.
Right.
I remember as a kid, I got 50 cents a week. And amazing, that bought a lot at Whackers, which is where we used to go.
Things were a little cheaper back then.
They were, but it's amazing when I see kids working today. I tell them, I say, thank you. Thank you for getting out and making your way in the world to get a job and showing up. Because,
absolutely.
That has changed a lot, but there's still plenty of people that work. And I see plenty of seniors working, too, and I thank them for working. And they all tell me, he said, you got to keep moving.
Got to keep doing something, right.
What was it that led you to get a job at a bank?
Well, it's an interesting story. The print shop that I mentioned in Millington, they also sold office supplies. So this was before the big box stores. There was no Office Max, Office Depot, Staples, or anything like that. So in a small town, every little business did different things. So we were a print shop and we sold office supplies. And there were 2 banks in town. And one of the ladies that was kind of the operations manager at one of the banks came into the print shop, and that's where she bought her office supplies. So she and I kind of Developed a relationship, got to talking, and she knew when I graduated, obviously, from high school and went to the University of Memphis, then Memphis State. And we had this relationship for about 4 years. And she just asked me one day when she was in there, she said, hey, we're looking for somebody to work. And it was a new startup bank in Millington. And she was going to go over as the operations manager for the new bank. And she was looking for people to work for her. And she asked me if I'd be interested in doing something like that. And I was excited. I thought that was really cool and decided to try it out. So when I graduated, went to the University of Memphis, we worked out a deal where I worked part-time. So I took my classes in the morning. And in the afternoon, I'd go home, change clothes, eat some lunch, and I'd go to work every day and work till 5 o'clock. And then on Saturdays from 9 to 12, we were open. We did statements. And this is back in the day when you had, actual paper checks that came. And so we had these files where all of your checks were. And so on Saturdays, we had to take your statement. We had to match up and make sure that all your checks were in your statement. We folded them, we put postage on them, and we mailed them. So that's what we did on Saturdays from 9 to 12. So I fell in love with the industry then. It was fun. It was exciting, something different. You never knew from day to day what you were going to be doing. And so I really, really fell in love with it at that point.
My biggest fear was I got to come up with the right amount of money at the end of the day. And
That's right.
And so
That's right.
count down the drawer and mentioning everything, and all the receipts are there.
That's right.
But then you go through college. Did your interest in it keep growing as you learned more and more about what banking was about?
It did. There's just so many different aspects of it. We talk about going from teller to CEO, and so there are just so many steps in the process of different the lending side, the operational side, the cash handling side, and all of that. So as I learned different aspects of the business, I thought, this is kind of fun. It's also a way where I can do what I like and what I love and really assist people in achieving their goals and their dreams financially. And I thought that was cool. I really liked that. I wanted to be able to do that and work with people and really help them get to where they wanted to be. And it's amazing. There's tons of people that make good money but had these dreams and aspirations about doing things but just really didn't know how to put the pieces together to get there. So that was fun for me. It wasn't the same old boring thing over and over every day. And so I that's the part of it that I really liked.
My sister was also in banking, and I learned a lot about what it was about through her. And in fact, she was head of a trust department. And people would die, and then they had no relatives, and you end up being in the funeral business. You end up being in the home selling business.
That's right.
The estate sale business.
Yes.
And so you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I think that's why I love news, because it was not the same any day.
Right. It's always fun and exciting. I'm always joking to tell people there's two things that'll get people riled up in a minute. One, if you mess with their money. Two, if you mess with their kids. And so I said sometimes in the business, you see sides of people that you don't know exist. So it was always interesting, and you never knew, what was coming at you. But it was also fun to be able to resolve things and help people get to where they wanted to be and get to good ground. And so it's always been very fulfilling. I've always loved it and still do to this day.
One of the things I think you probably picked up on early on was how banks are involved in the community with the colleges, the high schools, because they do want to be immersed in the community because they're a big part of the community.
Right.
Was that another thing that you got exposed to, is sports and the different things the bank sponsored?
Yes. Some of this comes, some of that philanthropic comes from my parents. My dad owned a retail furniture business out there for about 40 years. And he was always the kind of person that said, hey, we need to give back to the community that is bringing business to us. So, they're coming in and buying things from us. We need to try to take and give back every way that we can. So my parents were both very involved in the community. So I kind of learned that from them. And I always felt like if you're taking things from people in the community and earning something from them, that there's some portion of that you can always give back. And I've done that throughout my career. I've always told people we want to do business with people who do business with us. And if we're part of a community, your community can only be as strong as the people that are there in business and that are helping and contributing back to the good. So we do a ton of community work, donations, contributions. And I always tell people it's not just about throwing a check at something. We can all give money, and obviously people need that. But it's also showing up. Being there, volunteering. Everybody's like, well, I don't have any money to give. I said, yeah, but you can still contribute. Everyone can contribute somehow, some way. And if you don't have the ability to give any money, you can give of your time. And I have lived that out throughout my career. Still doing that, and I still believe we weren't just put on this earth to earn money and go to work every day and not give back. I think we all have some responsibility to give back and support the community that has supported us.
At some point, you became exposed to credit unions and learned the difference between a bank and a credit union.
I did.
And you decided to make the move. And you've never looked back. In fact, most of the people that work for you at Southern Security have all been at banks, and their focus is a little bit more on making money than, not that they're not involved in the community, but you really wanted to be involved in the community, and you saw that you could do much more with a credit union than you could under the auspices of a bank.
Right. The structure is different. Banks are for-profit organizations, financial institutions who have paid, they have stockholders, they have paid board members. So the structure, obviously there is to make money. They have people to answer to who have invested, which makes sense. The credit unions were created as a way to stabilize the financial industry right after the Depression because people didn't trust traditional financial institutions. And so they were created basically as an arm to financially educate and work with people to reestablish trust in the financial system in the country. So credit unions are not for profit for that reason. The reason is, we're supposed to invest back into educating, helping, and have the ability, obviously, to take what we do make and give back to people in different ways. And so the structures are different. I, obviously, because of what we just discussed a few minutes ago, wanting to give back to the community, the structure of the credit union space is a much better fit for me. I've felt more like I could contribute to really helping people, not just figuring out a way to make money. To be able to pay, our directors and things like that. It was a way for me to actually do what I know and be able to really invest and help people and get people where they want to be financially, but also give and invest in the community and let people know there is another alternative to traditional banking. And that is what a lot of people need. So many people cannot go through traditional banking because they don't meet certain criteria. And we have the ability to work with them and help them and figure things out. We meet people where they are, and it gives us the ability to educate and help structure a plan for them to get where they want to be. And that, to me, that's really what it's all about.
You've told me the story before about the young man that was working at Champion Awards,
yes,
who also gives back, or did when he owned the company. And there was a young man that said, I want to buy my mother a house.
Right.
And tell that story, because I think it's a prime example of what you've done and continue to do.
It is. It's a great story. Obviously, Mike and I had been friends. We had done a lot of business together, and he had this young man who had been previously incarcerated. He had been released from prison, and Mike had given him the opportunity as a local business owner to come to work for him and try to get back on his feet. He was working they do T-shirts, they print T-shirts. So he was in the back screen printing T-shirts. for Mike, and had kind of worked his way up to a supervisor in that area over a period of time. He called me one day and he said, "Hey, I'm going to send this guy over there that works for me. He wants you to talk to him." And I said, "About what?" And he said, "He wants to buy his first home." And I said, "Okay." He says, "But he has no idea what to do." He said, "I want you to talk to him about it." I said, "Okay." So he called me. And we set up an appointment, came to my office, and I took just a regular piece of typing paper, just a white piece of copy paper. And I said, these are the steps that you're going to need to take. I said, first of all, you need to remain vigilant about your work, continue to improve, there and see if you can get a promotion, which means you can get a raise. I said, you need to save some money. Put this much money aside so that you'll have, your closing cost and a down payment. And I wrote it all out on this piece of paper. He left my office, took the piece of paper, folded it up, put it in his wallet. Didn't know till later that he had kept it. 6 months later, somebody came to my office and said, "Hey, he's here to see you. Can he come back?" And I said, "Sure." So I walked out there. I said hello. We walked back to my office, and he had a roll about this big of cash, and he laid it in the middle of my desk, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" And he said,
cash, right?
"Yep." He said, "Here's the money you told me to save," and he pulls the piece of paper out of his wallet. He lays it on my desk. And we checked off everything, and he'd gotten a raise. So I called Mike to verify. He said, yes, he's supervisor of the area. I've given him a raise. He's going to get a bonus at the end of the year because he had upped their production. And I said, okay. And so we went through it, and I said, well, let's start looking for a house. And so we helped him look for a house. He was living in Orange Mound. And his mother was disabled, and she lived in the home with him. And his concern was she stayed there alone by herself during the day while he was working. And at the time, that was not one of the best neighborhoods in Shelby County. And he was afraid for her to be there alone without him, and wanted a nice place to move her that was safe, where he didn't have to worry about that anymore. And to show her that he had indeed straightened his life out, and that he was on the backside of it, that he, had recovered, and that he was going to be responsible and do the right thing. And so we looked for a couple of months, found a house in Parkway Village, needed some work. We had a guy come in, give us an estimate. We included that in the loan that we did, had the work done. And he moved in. We did a little housewarming party for him, moved his mother in. His mother still lives in the home.
Wow.
And he now has moved out to California, has started a business because he reached out to us about a year ago and needed some startup funds to start another business there, which we provided him out of the equity of the home.
Wow.
And so he is now running his own company out in California. His mother's living in the home. He's still paying the house note on the house here, paying the note on the other through the business that he's operating out in California. So I always tell people, sometimes the answer is not yes right now. But we can work with you to get a plan. It's the answer's not no. It's just maybe later. Let's just work towards it and try to get there. So, great story. Great guy. We'll probably be friends with him for the rest of my life. And that's why we do what we do. I think that's what matters. When it's easy for you to go with an 800 credit score into a bank and get whatever money you want, that's not a challenge. It's when people like that, who've got a criminal record, who could have never borrowed any money from a traditional financial institution, you can get in a good place because you have the ability to do that. Those are the kinds of things that really make a difference.
We're talking to Don Graeter, CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. And you keep doing it. I was having AutoZone, and this is about 2 months ago. And this guy waited on me. He was helping me find a light bulb in my car, and he was just really sharp. And I said, how long have you been doing this? He goes, 3 weeks. And I said, 3 weeks? He goes, yeah. I said, so what were you doing before that? He said, well, I was unemployed because during COVID, I got COVID, and then I got really sick, and I lost my job. I said, where did you work? He said, for a savings and loan here in Collierville. I said, would you like to get back to that, the financial world? And he said, I'm working at AutoZone. I said, yes, I would like to get back into that. And I said, let me check around for you. Because I said, I got a pretty good relationship with Southern Security. And we'd just gotten the equipment in for the show, and we were setting it all up in the conference room. And the lady's head of human resources, I tell her about this guy. She goes, so he's pretty sharp. I said, he's very sharp. She goes, we love people like that. I said, and I'd already gotten his phone number, and I gave it to her. She called him, came in for an interview, and yesterday it was at Southern Security, and she came walking by and said, hey, how's our friend? She goes, we're meeting with him right now. We hired him, and he started, and we love him. He's a great guy. So those are the kind of stories that you want to hear, that you never hear on the news, but that really make this community what it is. Right. And those are the kind of stories that everybody should be out looking. How can I help other people?
That's right.
And whether it's just somebody you meet in a store, and it happens all the time.
It does. There's so many great people in Memphis that do great things every day. And, I recently had this conversation with the mayor of the city, Paul Young. His wife and I were two of the Women of Impact for the American Heart Association this year. And at our celebratory event the other night, we were talking, and I said, he looked at me and around the room, and you had 10 incredible women who raised a record amount of money for the Heart Association this year. And I looked at him and I said, these are 10 really incredible women in here. And he said, yes. And he said, these are the kind of stories that we need to be telling. We need these stories to get out there, because every one of that group, all individually, had been doing great things in their own right. And those stories are not the stories that get out the way they should. And every single day in this city, there are great, good people who are doing good things. And that's the stories we want to tell. We need to make sure that is what's getting out instead of the other. And I think it's on all of us to make sure we're doing it, which is why we're doing this. That needs to be the news, but we have to make sure that we're out telling it. We're supporting those good messages in whatever avenues and channels that we can. That's what we need to be doing.
Well, and also for especially young women, your story, those women you're talking about, their stories, in going to that point in your early career, and I know my sister went through it in the banking business, that you had the males who flew on the Learjet to wherever they were going, and the females...
we had to drive our own car.
Or fly commercial.
That's right. Or drive our car and pay for our own gas.
But those were things, and you see, and I used to get so mad, I said, you had to go say something. And he goes, look, I'm a vice president, and then she became the president. And that's the way it was. But I said, the way you change that is you have strong women that take the initiative to keep going and not get mad and quit, but keep going, and eventually you become a person.
Right. You let it make you stronger instead of tearing you down. And I think I've had this conversation a lot. Obviously, that happens. Unfortunately, it's 2025, and it does still happen. Things are better, but it does still exist in some environments, and that's unfortunate. There's a lot of great, incredible women who've done a lot of fantastic things and have really made a difference in the world, just period. And I think they don't always get recognized or get the recognition that they deserve. I think also get overlooked sometimes, which is not fair. So, I love talking about and being around great women, because they do a lot of great things and are hard workers. And I always say can multitask better than anybody, because
including men.
That's exactly right. Their attention to detail, just all of those things can be so helpful. And so instead of fighting it, why don't we embrace it? Why don't we make that, something that we use to our advantage to improve our company, to improve our organizations, to improve our city? Let's embrace that. Let's surround these incredible women who all have great ideas and incredible work ethic, and let's go with it. Let them accomplish big things instead of fighting it and it becoming an ego thing. There's just really no need for that. Because everybody, I think, wants the same thing. We want the city to be better. We want to be proud of it. This is our home. There's a lot of great history here. There's so many things that have happened. And we want those to be the stories. We want that to be the narrative. That's what we want people to hear. It doesn't help any of our businesses at all. When the negativity is out there. It doesn't help me attract good people. It doesn't help, anybody else attract good people if those are the stories that are out there. So male, female, young, old, it's time for us all to band together to really tell what's good and what's great about this city and try to change the trajectory over the next several years.
Well, as you just mentioned about the Women That Matter, where the Heart Association raised a record amount of money, you also instrumental in the women's soccer field at the University of Memphis. Briefly tell that story, because that's an incredible story as well.
It is. Liza Wilford was a mom, kindergarten school teacher here in Memphis, grew up in Memphis, went to the University of Memphis, played soccer for the University of Memphis, and was tragically, kidnapped a couple of years ago. And so the family all along through that wanted something good to come from that tragic event. I think that the city also and so many people in this city wanted something good to come from that. She was also an avid runner. So we've got the track runners group, we've got the soccer community, we've got the university, we've got all these people have been touched by this and wanted, really something good to come from the situation. The University of Memphis women's soccer team is the most decorated and has the most championships of any sports team at the university.
They didn't even have a locker room.
Just an FYI. So, the locker room, when I went and toured, was sad at best. And I tell this story. Brooks is the head soccer coach over there and has been for 20 years, grew up in Memphis, has a great heart, loves the city as well. And he said, Dawn, when I bring in recruits, he said, I act like I can't unlock the door of the locker room. And I said, Brooks, what? And he goes, I just tell them I don't have the key because I'm afraid if they see the locker room, they will go somewhere else because it's that bad. And I said, this is terrible. So however inspiring, because he was able to recruit players that he convinced could be champions, and they didn't have a fancy locker room. They don't even have a fancy meeting room. They are in a portable trailer that was put there 15 years ago that's rusted on the outside and leaks. And that's where they meet for their team meetings. And I said, any person that can be at a university and continually have championship teams with as little resources as you have is an incredible motivator, an incredible person, and you deserve better than this. The university deserves better than this. The city deserves better than this. What a better fitting thing to do than to build a new beautiful soccer complex and facility and name it in honor of Liza. And she embodied what everything that I just described. She was a Memphian, to her core. She loved the city. She stayed here. She went to school here. She had a family, 2 sweet little boys. She was a kindergarten teacher at St. Mary's. Ran every day and had to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do that because that's the only time she could carve out for herself with all of those other responsibilities. And so what a fantastic way to honor that person, put something in the center of this city that is a light, to bring something good to the center of the city, to just show everyone that tragedy really can produce something good. So I was asked to be a part of a committee to help raise the funds to build this facility. And for several reasons, I agreed. Liza was my daughter. Went to St. Mary's and ran track. She was one of her track coaches. Also a runner by heart myself. Had been part of the soccer community. Sydney also played soccer her whole entire life, all the way through high school. So we were very close to that as well. And also an alum at the University of Memphis. Had just been appointed to the 901 Women Board, and so was aware of the needs over there. And what an incredible opportunity. And so I said, yes, let's do this.
And you're very near what
we are. We started out as an original goal of $7 million, and that was to complete the women's side of the facility. We were going to come back as a phase 2 and do the men's side. Ed Scott, the new athletic director, came in kind of in the midst of all of this and said, hey, if we're going to do this, let's just build the whole thing out. Let's go ahead and include the men's side. And I said, okay, that's great, but that upped the ante a little bit. So we needed to get to 8.5, and I'm glad and happy to say that we are right there. And we are in final phase plans of getting approval to get started. And so we should see some ground moving over there soon. But an incredible journey going to people of this city and this community, asking for them to support that program and support the building of that facility. And no one said no. How could you? Because everybody understands the magnitude and the significance of making that happen.
Plus, they had a woman in charge.
And they had a bunch of women in charge.
Dawn Graeter, thank you for coming in and sharing your story and some other great stories about things going on in the community.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break here from some of our other sponsors, and then we've got Larry Dodson, the original lead singer for the Bar-Kays.
All right, love those guys. All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Dawn Graeter, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show, coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi, everyone. It's Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. And I'm here to tell you about the new podcast that Earl Farrell from Memphis is doing. And we're doing it downtown live from the Peabody, which is behind me and next to the Rendezvous. And we're going to be talking all things Memphis, but we're also going to be talking about health insurance because that applies to everyone. And I can help you in every area. So I look forward for you listening to us and learning more about what we can do for you in Memphis and how I can help you with your health.
Hi, I'm George Gully. Want to welcome Earl back to the podcast. We're here at Jim Carrey Chevrolet, Nissan, Subaru, Buick, and GMC, and I'm going to save you some money. Come down and see me today.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earl Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earl Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, my name is Jameson Todd, and I'm the director of Live at the Garden and the Radiance Amphitheater. And we're so excited for our 25th year of Live at the Garden here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. We've got a great lineup for you this season, so come on out.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wald, Director of Marketing and Communications for Memphis Botanic Garden and Live at the Garden. We've had Earl Farrell right along the way for the past 25 years, and we can't wait to talk more about the season this summer on the Earl Farrell for Memphis show.
So come out to Live at the Garden. Our first show is on June 21st.
Hi, my name is Scott Fueling. I'm president of Phoenix Communications here in Memphis. I'm really proud to support Earl Farrell's show, as is everybody else on the team. We love Memphis, and we love doing things to promote Memphis, and we can't wait for this to get started.
Here we go. And welcome back, and introduce my next guest, which if you've been in Memphis, you've been alive for the last 50 years, you know who he is. Larry Dodson, who is the original lead singer for the Bar-Kays. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Harold. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
You look well.
So do you. So do you. I always tell my friends that I've known for more than 50 years, I said, man, it's good to see somebody I know still standing. You know?
Oh, my God. It is so good to be seen these days.
But,
yes.
you know, and I tell everybody, too, that all the people I know that look good and feel good, and it's because they keep moving. They keep doing stuff. You've never retired. You do as much or more now than you ever have.
Well, you know what? I made the bad mistake of trying to retire in 2017, but Earl, it was the biggest boo-boo I've made in a long time. It lasted. I stayed away for about a year, a little over a year, but it's just, I would tell not just musicians, but anybody who's been working and feel like and I was in good health. You know, I was doing well, and I wasn't mad at anybody. But you know, I have a special needs daughter, so that played into it. But I would tell anybody, if it ain't nothing wrong, just don't stop.
No.
Slow down, but don't stop. Something happens.
Well, especially when you've been as busy as you've traveled the world.
Absolutely.
A number of times. I remember you telling me one time that you've gone to these villages in the middle of nowhere, and there were two signs you saw wherever you went: Coca-Cola signs and signs of pictures of Elvis.
There you go. There you
and
go.
I was going, everywhere you go, I'm telling you. And I was saddened to hear, though, that when like you go to Paris, France, there were like hundreds of people at the airport when you came in. And then I said, isn't it that way here? He said, no, Memphis, Memphis thinks we're just local guys.
Well, they see us at the supermarket, and we're just guys.
So was Elvis. I mean, that's what I got here. I said, did you ever meet Elvis? I said, oh, we see him all the time, but we didn't think anything of it because we saw him all the time.
You know, I used to take offense to it, but I got to understand that they see us a lot, and it has nothing to do with them not thinking a lot of us.
No.
It's just we're hometown boys, you know.
Well, I also think one of the unique things that I like about Memphis is no matter who it is, I walked out of this hotel with Ringo Starr,
sure.
and people walk by and say, hey, Ringo, like they saw him every day.
They're spoiled here in Memphis, right? It's so much talent, so much talent, right. So many entertainers have come out here. I mean, big entertainers. And so they are a little spoiled. They are a hard audience, and that's what made us. That's one of the things that made us really a really good band. If you could convince a Memphis audience that you were on the right page at the right time, at the time they're coming to see you and they're having a good time, you've done something because they have seen a lot. They've seen the best.
Especially when you guys came out in the 50s and the 60s.
60s, yeah.
The things that were going on in Memphis at every studio, and I've often said, I mentioned this to people in the film business, if you were to do a timeline movie about what was going on at Stax, what was going on at Royal, what was going on at Sun, at American, it was all happening at the same time. Did you guys know that this was all coming out at the same time? I mean, were you aware that everybody else was cranking them out?
Well, to an extent, but you know what? And during those days, in the late '60s and in the early '70s, you know, it was we were so busy until we didn't have a chance to look around. But we knew there was a lot of great music, and being at Stax, it was so very competitive. When you got Sam and Dave, Johnny Taylor, Isaac Hayes, Otis Redding, it was like going to college there. So we were so focused on just being good.
It really is. I've asked so many people And as you said, you get to meet everybody here, and I've gotten to meet everybody except Elvis. He died in August. I got here in January.
Yeah.
And I just missed him. But I got to meet everybody else here. And they're really also generous with their time. And if you just say, hey, I love what you do, they're like anybody else. They go, thank you, you know.
That's exactly right, including Elvis.
Yeah. I just didn't get to meet him. But I asked George Klein one time, I said, you think Elvis and I would have gotten along? He said, oh, hell yeah. You like guns and women, man. I mean,
all right, there you go. There you go.
When you were at that stage, and I can only imagine what it was like, but you're also traveling because that's where you really made your money was the live performances, and that's where you ended up selling records too because people saw you live. They said, I got to get their music. Was there a point at which you said, I think we're really good? Because there's always that self-doubt with everybody, musicians, business people. Am I really any good? I mean, are we faking these people out?
Well, I tell you what, Earl. To be real honest with you, when you are around Johnny Taylor and Isaac and Sam and Dave, you question whether you are really good, or as good as they are. But it doesn't stop us. But it just gave us another energy. And remember now, after Booker T and the MGs had a long time of playing the music that came out on Stax when they got kind of super rich and started playing golf and stuff. The Bar-Kays kind of sneaked in and we became the house band and through Isaac Hayes' first 5 albums, which did include Sheriff, the Bar-Kays played on a lot of music. So we were engulfed in that, which kind of kept us from going on the road a lot, but it was like going to college too. It was amazing to be involved in all those records, man. People don't know that. We were involved in a lot of hit music out of Stax Records.
If you ever go to Stax, the Stax Museum, that is a great museum.
Oh, it is.
You walk through the halls there, and you see all these record jackets with Moms Mabley. You had comedians. You had all these people that were all coming to Memphis, and nobody knew it.
That's very true.
And you guys were cranking out music, and it was really almost like I need a saxophone player. Say, see if you get Bobby on the phone.
Right.
And so you never who was going to end up being in that particular session, which made it great. I mean, the Memphis sound, the Memphis horns, it became a sound.
Just like you just said. I mean, if it needed some background singers, well, we get one of the Mad Lads and we'll get one of these guys and one of the Emotions, and everybody was glad to do. It was one big family, even though there were some very, very cruel things going on outside of the walls of Stax. Unfortunately, we were the city. Martin Luther King got killed, and the riots, and just some other unpleasant things. But we, on the inside of the walls, it wasn't prejudice. The Bar-Kays were an interracial band from the very beginning. Booker T and the MGs was, the Bar-Kays, Memphis Horns, all of us were interracial groups. We never thought about it, and truly we didn't think about race.
Well, it was the same thing like when I came here at Channel 3 in 1978, and nobody talked about politics. Nobody talked about, you're black, I'm white. It was we were all doing the job together, and we went to work, and we went to cover the news and everything, and we were just all happy. We liked each other, and we made our work easy and fun, and that's the impression I got from Stax and Booker T and the MGs. I mean, my first concert ever was James Brown. I was 9 years old in Odessa, Texas, and we're going to see the King of Soul.
That's where you started.
And we're all chanting, I'm black, I'm proud. 9 years old, man.
Get out of here. That's amazing.
But those were the days when Top 40 played Top 40 whatever it was, whether it was R&B, whether it was blues, whether it was country. So you got exposed to everything.
That's very, very true. It's very, very diverse radio during that time.
And I found R&B was just my favorite. I loved it over everything else. And I mean, people, and I never dreamed I'd come to Memphis one day and meet, all these great, incredible people. And you almost have to pinch yourself and say, I can't believe I've been this fortunate.
That's kind of how I feel too. I being 74 years old now, and
we're the same age.
Well, that's right. That we'll be even.
It must have been a clean living, right?
I've been married 55 years.
About 38, 39.
Get out of here. One day at a time, right?
That's right.
One day at a time.
She's always right.
It's all you got the story. It's yes, ma'am. What can I do for you today?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was wrong, and I'll never do it again.
Oh, he knows all. Smart guy over here.
when you do travel the world, are you amazed that everybody knows your music and they're singing along with it, and it's like they're hearing it in their youth again? I think that's what we all love about music we grew up with. It's like going to your grandmother's house and smelling it again.
Absolutely. You know, I think I the most amazed I've been is probably traveling in the East to Japan and Korea. They know more about our music than we do. They know the guys who sang background on the records. They know the guy who produced it. They still have the album cover. It looks brand new.
Wow.
And they can pay $300 or $400 to come to a concert and then come to the concession stand and spend $300 or $400.
Wow.
It's amazing. And it gives you, it gave us just an incredibly good feeling to know that we were liked and revered and respected so much. I wish we had traveled more, but I'm going to Europe in the fall of this year, and I'm going to take the band. And some of the days I'll play alone, and some of them I'll play with the band. But that was something that we didn't do a lot. We didn't go to Europe a lot, you know. But it's better late than never. Yeah.
It is, and I think in so many ways, because there was some of the music that came along, you know, in the '70s, you know, the punk rock and the headbanging music and some of that. I said, when are we going to get past that and get back to really music that's got, you know,
it's coming.
It is.
The circle has turned.
Yes.
It has turned.
And I'm so pleased about it. And I'm so pleased that people are appreciating what really was good music, and it's still good. Because good music is like something that tastes good or is funny. It's always going to be good, taste good, be funny, and people are going to love the great music.
And when you hear the music, it makes the video go off in your head, because it reminds you of just where you were when you heard it, just what you were doing, good or bad, and it just takes you back to those times, that inspirational music, that R&B, good R&B. Not to say that I love pop, I love some rap, but good R&B, soulful music. And I was listening to the songs that were playing here today. I mean, it's like, when I hear the stylistics and when I hear the other songs that were playing, some of Me and Mrs. Jones, I remember exactly where I was when I first heard it.
I was in Dallas.
See there?
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
In fact, my wife and I were talking about driving over here this afternoon about, they were talking about ZZ Top and ZZ Top's coming to the Live at the Garden.
That's right.
And that you can still remember their videos on MTV with, you know, She's Got Legs, and you can... And as soon as you hear that song, that vision goes through your head of that. And it's part of our lives. It's much a part of our lives as our families, our husbands, wives, kids. It is the music we enjoyed over the years.
A funny story when you mentioned ZZ Top. So we did a lot of our recordings at Arden right here in Memphis, and so did ZZ Top.
Yeah.
So the artists got really mad at both of us because ZZ Top, they had enough money to stay in the Studio A, and they would just rent it by the year, you know, and we had enough money to stay in Studio B, so nobody could get in to record. So finally what they did, John Fryer, he built another room for us. Just for a Studio C, he built that room for the Barcade so we could get out of B and let him make some money with some other clients. But ZZ Top was just great guys. Just great guys.
Billy Gibbons used to come when I had Sleep Out Louie's, a bar downtown.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Willie Mitchell used to come in there and play. But Billy would come in the middle of the afternoon while they were recording here and sit there and have lunch by himself, and I'd go sit and talk with him. And he's just like a regular guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He never asked me to sing along with him.
And it's amazing to see how well respected they are and how much money these guys are making still 50 years later.
Yeah.
They've been around the block once or twice.
And you can't even recognize them, nothing but a beard and
there
sunglasses.
There you go. Nobody has no idea what they look like. Great guys, though.
But your music is so inspirational, and you guys are still so good.
Thank you so much,
sound more powerful because of the equipment now is so much better than in the old days. I mean, last time I saw you guys, it blew me away. Just and your energy level is amazing.
Well, it takes some doing, though. I tell you, But one thing that I tell you that out of all the stuff that and I shared this in my book, we'll talk about it later. One of the things that drove us was we were so afraid of not being good, because we were playing with such good entertainers, and we would, no matter what we was doing, good or bad, bad boys, things we didn't have any business doing, we would always go to bed because we were so afraid of not being good the next day.
But don't you think that made you better?
Oh, yeah, of course it did. It drove us. The whole band felt that way. Alan Jones instilled that in us to be the very best we could be every time we hit that stage. And every time the red light went on to record, he pushed us, and then we started to push ourselves.
You know, you say Elvis had just as much energy in the studio when he was recording. He still moved in there. Did you have the same energy you feel like in the studio as you did on stage? Because there's an adrenaline rush that you get from a crowd. It's hard to replace or duplicate in the studio.
I'll be very honest, no. You have to have studio recording is different. You have to. Some artists don't have any problems doing it. I had to acquire the ability to transform myself, the energy from stage to that little room. And when the red light went on, sometimes it made me nervous. But Alan helped me through that, and he taught me. He just taught me a lot, including how to write songs. We would put us in a room at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he would come back at 5 and see what happened. And soon, after so many years of writing, he didn't have to come back because we started writing those hits, and he just said, "What you got for me today?"
You always are supposed to have something today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
When young people, I know they do come up to you and ask advice, they want to break into the business. There is no right or wrong thing to do in really any business, the music business, entertainment of any kind. I guess don't give up on your dream, and you have to keep working.
You know what? One of the things that I tell aspiring entertainers, I say, it's very hard to get tripped up if you stay on your knees. And that's something that my housekeeper told me years ago, just trust God, trust yourself, be the very best version of you that you can be. And then everything else will fall in place, good or bad.
I guess that's part of what's in your book. Let's talk about your book.
Well, yeah, this was when I made the mistake of trying to leave the stage in 2017. My son and I he keeps up with my day-to-day stuff. He doesn't manage me, but he keeps up with my day-to-day, my week-to-week stuff. So we would meet every morning, and I would always tell him a story or two about things that happened on the bus or getting all my jewelry pulled off and a girl bringing it back to me at the end of the night. The last person, we were in the dressing room. She snatched it off just out of just being overwhelmed. She brought everything back. She said, "I'm so sorry." And it brought tears to my eye because she could have went home with it. She took everything. But stories like that. So he said, "You ought to write a book." And I said, "I don't know anything about writing a book." So I started keeping notes, and I started going into the towns 2 and 3 days early so that I could just keep my notes and be just me in the room. And I ended up doing it. And this is a very good book. I can't keep it. It's called The Life Story of Larry Dodson, and the band plays on. I wrote this book all the way up till I left. So it was in real time, so it encompassed all of the things that happened prior to me being in the Marquez, through it, and the day I left.
Were there stories that went through your mind and you think, should I tell this story or not?
Those are called ouch moments. My publisher said, look, when I gave her a draft of it, she said, "I don't have to edit this book. You're telling it all." She said, "But I tell you what, if you really want the book to be a hit, start telling the stuff that makes you say ouch, and that you really don't want people to know." And I did, and it ended up being therapeutic for me because I said things in the book that I had never shared with anybody. And she said to me, because if you got through it, just think about all the kids or the people you're going to help. Because if you got through it and turned out the way you did, maybe it'll help them. And I did. I told a lot of stuff I shouldn't have said, probably.
But even
my junk, nobody else's stuff.
Yeah, but even embarrassing things, because everybody does stuff and they look back and go, "Man,
of course.
I can't believe I did that." But that's how people learn, is you admit, everybody does stuff that you thought, boy, either I was just an idiot then, or because especially with young people, my son does the same thing. I'll start telling a story. He goes, "Dad, you told me the story before," I said, "and you're going to hear it again, son."
Right. But I took my time, and I did, and I can't keep them. I mean, I just really can't keep them. People write, people listen, and they read the book, and they always share really warm thoughts with me. And they said, "You talked a lot, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." But it made the book a better book.
Yep. When you look back on your life, and even what's going on with your life right now, getting to go to Europe, you got an album that just came out. Tell me the name of the album that's out.
The album was Yours Truly, Larry Dodson. Larry D. I was using the word Larry D at that time, just sort of rebranded myself. After I decided to come back to music, come back to the stage, I didn't bother the kid that I took 7 months to find to take my place. I let him stay in place. He was doing a good job. I said, well, I'll just do another brand. And I now travel as Larry Dodson, what name do I travel under now? Larry, because I've had different ones.
It's like passwords, man. I can't
Right. It's Larry Dodson, the renowned voice of the Barcades. That's what it is.
Because you were the original
lead singer of the Barcades for a long time, for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I just changed it. That's why it escapes me. Legendary voice for the Barcades. That's what it is.
It was like Morgan Freeman. I interviewed him once, well, a couple of times. But when I met him and I introduced him, I said, and Morgan Freeman, movie star, he goes, international movie star.
He's another great guy.
He is tremendous.
Absolutely.
Your friends, so many people in the industry, that's who they're friends and who they associate with mostly. I get the impression you have friends that aren't in the business that are just like the rest of us. You got friends everywhere in every level of life.
Yeah, when things got to going good for us, and for me personally, and for my family, I didn't lose my friends. It was even more reason for me to keep them around me. It kept me grounded. And like I said, I've been married a long time, and that's unusual for an entertainer who I joined the Barcades when I was in 1970.
Wow.
I joined in April, and I got married in August of that same year with nothing. Not a place to live. We didn't have anything but the two of us. No money, nothing. But just us, and here we are after all these years, and we've done very, very well. Just morally, mentally, spiritually, financially, we've done well. She's a great partner, and having our first kid to be a special needs kid, Down syndrome, was a big blow for us. I talk about that in the book too, and that's one of the things that I had a little about sharing. But I've served on the board, and my wife has served on it. She served on the national board, and we're very close to disabilities, which is why our newly formed Dodson Foundation is doing great things with. Yeah.
Well, it's part of what you do to give back, and I think tell that part of the story, because there's so many people are touched by people with special needs. And the good thing is now they're out in the open. So many organizations that are including those people, getting them jobs and helping them find their way in life. They used to, they just said you kind of put them away someplace. And
absolutely.
They got so much to give. As you have, it has been a thoroughly a pleasure to have you here.
Oh man, please bring me back sometime. Yeah,
because I will. Because usually we get to see each other, but you're playing, so I'm going. Hey. But
I still travel, not as much as I used to, but I thank God. And I don't say this boisterously. I don't have to do a lot of traveling now. I've been okay, but I do the things that I want to do, the bigger concerts, the bigger events. I played in one of the most memorable things since Watch Stacks. I played in August with Al Green and 64 other entertainers at the SoFi concert. And when I went on at 3:30, it was 70,000 people.
Wow.
A highlight of my life. And we were spot on. We were spot on, man. So it's those kind of things that just keeps me looking for the next record, looking for the next audience.
Al Green's one of my favorite too. In fact,
he was there.
When he came back from just playing, his religious music, and came back to playing all his great hits, he was at the New Daisy Theater, and I was doing the morning show at Channel 5, and I got a hold of his people. I said, I would love to interview, but I do the morning show, and so I can't wait until after the concert, because anyway I could get there before. And I said, let's get back to you. They got back to me and said, he said you could come in before the concert. He'll be doing makeup. And I said, thank you. So
did you do it?
I did.
Great.
I get in there and knock on the door, and somebody opens the door, and he's sitting there, he turns around, looks at me, he goes, Earl Farrell. The $1 million smile. And I said, Al Green. He goes, I get up and watch you every morning.
See there? And he made it too. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Well, you both are, and that Memphis has been very fortunate to have people of your caliber. That
I appreciate that.
We're here, but you continue to stay here and make Memphis your home. And as just the whole theme of the show is, it's about a great city and the great people who live here, and we're going to have them on all the time.
Thank you. And keep doing that, because Memphis needs that.
Yeah.
And this is your book. I'll sign it for you, and I'll just leave it over here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
I'm sorry, you could have to speak louder. he's given us this copy. Where can other people get it?
Oh, yeah, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it wherever you get good books.
Yeah.
Just wherever you get it. It's everywhere.
Larry and I'll be out back of the trunk of his car. He's selling books out there.
Fortunately, I don't have to do that no more. Wherever you get good books.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Take care of yourself. You look great, too, man.
Well, thank you. Cheers.
And your wife does, too.
Yeah, well. All right. That is this episode, and a great one it was. Thanks for everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next time.